it's not being defeated because now all of a sudden XYZ is going to take my job. It's the scope and what you can impact in the same amount of time you did yesterday is like 3-4x.
Welcome to Real Leadership, the show that cuts through the clutter to spotlight leaders who make, move, and process things in the real economy. This isn't about buzzwords or theories. It's about bold decisions, solving challenges, and the strategies driving industries that matter. I'm Jim Weaver, CEO of the Owner Group. In every episode, we get real about what it takes to turn vision into action and obstacles into opportunities. Let's go.
Welcome back. Our guest today is an operational powerhouse. Dan Seidel, Global Chief Operating Officer at HelloFresh and a supply chain and operations executive with more than 26 years of experience across manufacturing, automation, and global logistics. Dan began his career at Thomas & Betts, a part of ABB Group, where he spent over 15 years in roles spanning manufacturing, engineering, plant management, and global operations. As a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt and later Vice President of Operations, he built a deep expertise in operational excellence, process design, and large-scale industrial systems. He went on to serve as Regional Director of Operations at Amazon, where he helped scale one of the world's most advanced fulfillment networks. Dan later joined Target as VP of Global Supply Chain and Logistics, leading transformation initiatives focused on modernizing operations and improving end-to-end efficiency. In 2024, Dan joined HelloFresh as Chief Operating Officer for North America and then was named Global Chief Operating Officer in 2025. In this role, he leads a highly complex, technology-driven supply chain focused on redefining how food is sourced, prepared, and delivered at scale. An engineer at heart, Dan is known for his people-first leadership philosophy, combining strong team development with data-driven execution and advanced automation to solve complex real-world problems. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thanks, Jim. That was probably the nicest introduction I've ever had, so thank you. I appreciate it. I'll have to share that with the wife tonight.
Yeah, I don't know if she's going to buy it, but, we aim to please, so that's good. All right, so doing my research on HelloFresh, of course, I knew the name, but I was blown away at how big you are, how many brands you have. Give the audience a sense of the scale and scope of HelloFresh today to kind of get us started.
Sure. So in the U.S., HelloFresh owns 4 brands. So the HelloFresh brand, which is our flagship, it's a meal kit brand. So with HelloFresh, you can purchase one of 4, 5, 6 of 100 plus menu items each week. We give you menu cards with exact calories if you're doing any, health food eating or aligning with a GLP-1 diet or whatever. Explicit directions on how to cook for a chef curated experience. Best part is no waste. So our portions are exact to what you need. And instead of, if you go to Costco or Walmart or wherever and you have a bushel of X or Y, your freshness is top tier because we're only giving you what you need. So that's the HelloFresh brand. We have 2 other meal kit brands in the US. One's Green Chef. It's organic. It's a higher tier. And then we have what's called EveryPlate. EveryPlate is same quality produce and protein that's in HelloFresh, but it's a little more of a big box store experience. So more bulk driven. It's a lower cost. But again, for people who like to batch cook and stuff, it's value add. And then on the ready to eat side, we have Factor. So Factor is a nutrition-based, diet-based, ready-to-eat meal. So I always joke, I'll date myself, it's like the old Hungry Man TV dinners. Mm-hmm. The only greatness is it's never frozen. It comes to you fresh. It has a 14-day shelf life. You put it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and the way we cook it is proprietary. The microwave doesn't make it taste like leftovers. The microwave actually completes the cooking and brings a really juicy, flavorful experience to life. I'll be honest, until I came here, I had no idea what Factor was. I am a huge Factor consumer because it's just delicious. And now because as you shared in my intro, I used to work for Target. We were able to make some connections, and you can now buy Factor in 100 Targets in the Midwest. So if you don't want to deal with the subscription model, you can still enjoy the Factor experience by going to Target.
It looked like you did some really neat things at Target and everything's humming along. What was it about the HelloFresh opportunity that was attractive to you?
Target, let me tell you, a fantastic leadership team. Brian Cornell, he was the CEO when I was there, and spent a lot of time, optimizing the omni-channel business, the Target Drive Up, Shipped, Target 360, building distribution networks with Robotics to enable the omni-channel experience. And my team did a fantastic job doing that, and I loved it. It runs really well. And I am a person who loves to drive change management. I love to see what makes people tick and see where to put people in different roles. And it's really hard to do when you're turned on by that and things are in steady state, right? And you're in this refining stage. And what really attracted me to HelloFresh was, you do research. HelloFresh during the pandemic was a massive player, right? You couldn't leave your house. You had delicious chef-curated meals delivered to your home once a week, and it was perfect. It was the perfect business solution for a pandemic. I don't know about you. I'm not willing to wait around another 100 years for another pandemic. I want to see that same growth and business value today at HelloFresh that the pandemic brought, I hate to say it, but like organically. So when I looked at the business model, when I looked at where opportunities were in the operation, when I looked at personally just where the business was, I felt that operations could be a massive lever to change what HelloFresh was in service of for our consumers. And by taking this role, that's what I'm in the middle of doing with all of my peers, right? We are reinventing the way we fulfill goods to our customer base. To give you an idea, we used to, when I joined, you had 35 meals you could choose from if you were in the United States. 35. Now, hey, 35 is great, but guess what? If I had to guess, Jim, your favorite meal is different than mine, or my favorite meal is different than my neighbor's favorite meal. And when you start looking at, over, millions and millions of customers, all of a sudden 35 meals isn't very customer centric. It's almost like mundane. And having more selection isn't about getting scroll boredom and, oh, geez, now I've got to look at 100, 200, 300 meals. It's much more about personalization. And how do you bring a personal curated experience to each customer so they feel like HelloFresh is for them, not for the general public, but it's for them. So what we've done on the operations side is we're in the middle of, if you get a product in the West Coast from the Pacific Northwest down to Arizona, my Arizona building is already servicing this personalization journey. And if you wanted to, you could scroll through 500 meals. I know I'd get bored probably after about 30. But because we've optimized our personalization engine in our user experience, it brings you what you are positive you'll like, or based on what you say you'll like, we're pretty confident you'll like, and making the menu all about them. So I'm sharing this story because we open the eyes to people to eat things they never dreamt they'd like or want to eat with the stuff they actually like, right? Like, I'm not a seafood fan. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not going to go out of my way to try something that's seafood related, but I'll try anything else if it's not in that genre. I've gotten some things from HelloFresh that I would have never even dreamt I'd love to eat, and now I do. And so it's really about opening up that experience while not having to broach into other areas that you may or may not like. And back to sustainability and diet and health consciousness, we're proportioned exactly the way you need to be proportioned to have the meal be perfectly cooked based on our curated chef design. The experience is if you went to a restaurant, the food's just delicious. And my cooking used to be grilling on the deck, and that was like the extent. Now when we get HelloFresh and I'm home and not on a plane, I cook. I cook because I feel like I owe my wife about 20 years of payback, and it's actually enjoyable. It's like filing an instruction sheet. So anyway, that's why I came here. I really wanted to help rejuvenate the brand and make the customer experience even more relevant than what the pandemic did.
Struggling with high turnover and burnout? Own and Flex addresses these challenges head on, offering a scalable solution with vetted part-time talent to fill staffing gaps. Own and Flex combats worker shortages and ensures your core team isn't overburdened, reducing turnover and enhancing job satisfaction. Empower your workforce and boost your success with Own and Flex. Visit ownandflex.com to learn more.
So you started in 24, and from what I understand, you kind of bypassed the typical executive onboarding process. What did the first month or two look like for Dan in the new gig there at HelloFresh?
It was interesting. My first couple months, I spent the entire time in our largest, most highly complex production facility in Illinois. And I spent it there because obviously I did a ton of research before I joined. And then as I got closer to onboarding, I started looking at P&Ls and started looking at where the opportunities were from an investor's perspective. And it was obvious our Factor brand, albeit delicious and an amazing product, had some love that needed to be given to really drive consistency and quality, taste, and be financially viable. So as I onboarded, you are correct. It wasn't the typical first couple months of spending time with the board and investors and getting voice of the customer. It was stabilizing what was our biggest growth engine at the time and getting it stable so I could go out and start identifying voice of the customer and all the things that we needed to do to drive that change. But what was great about that onboarding experience that I would have never received if I didn't take that approach is I got to meet the people who add the value, right? I don't. I'm overhead. I throw some strategy out once in a while and I teach people, but like I don't cook food. I don't portion the food. I don't map gas. I don't pack. The people who I value on the floor do. And they had a lot of barriers. They had a lot of reasons why they weren't set up for success. And nobody asked them. It was just assumed this is the way we operate and this is how we're going to function. And my first couple months were talking to as many people as I could, working on the line alongside with them. And everyone jokes with me now that they know who I am. They're like, oh, you pulled an undercover boss on us without having to be the undercover boss, right? And but that's so valuable. When you understand what barriers are keeping your safety, your quality, your customer experience, and your cost at the optimal levels you're planning for as an executive, you're never going to be successful. You just really aren't. And I'm a firm believer in that. Am I always in the weeds? Do I micromanage? Heck no. I expect my team to be a high-performing team that knows and understands all the same things I do. But to have that perspective and to have the context of what things are barriers each day, I feel are invaluable. I was just, you talk real quick about my onboarding is 4 weeks ago, I was in the Phoenix building. I was just articulating that we're expanding the personalization in. And myself and my individual who leads the buildings with me, who's focused on North America, we wanted to work in the building on a Saturday and Sunday to kind of get a vibe of, hey, how well is this going and such. And this gentleman, he was, if you ever got a HelloFresh box, we put ice in a liner to ensure freshness for 86 hours outside of cold chain. So, your last mile delivery, if for some reason it got stuck or whatever by FedEx, you have the ability to still receive a fresh box. So this guy was putting ice in the lime and I just saw him walk away. And I was like, hey, is everything all right? He's like, oh, I got to go to the restroom. I was like, all right, no problem. I'll take over. Just show me real quick, right? So he showed me, hit this button, hit that button, blah, blah, blah. So I'm loading ice, and the gentleman who I went out there with to take a look at the operation, he goes, "What are you doing?" I was like, he had to go to the restroom. It was like the end of the line. Like if you didn't run this, it was going to stop like 600 boxes an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he goes, "All right, is that the guy right there?" I'm like, "Yeah, here he comes." So he puts his arm around me. He goes, who's doing your job right now?" And he told him, and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Stop. Like, don't. It's all good." But it was awesome because then he felt comfortable, right? Started opening up. "Hey, if we did this a little different, if you talk to Sally over there or Billy over there," right? So it's those moments that you generate, making yourself a real person that really add value. And I'll never ivory tower it. You just can't. You're not successful if you ivory tower it. You really need to be in the gemba and know and understand what people need. And when you talk what you preach and you show results and remove barriers for people, they share more, right?
What is the Japanese expression? Gensi Genbukchu, I think that's horrible Japanese, but it's go see for yourself. So you're talking about the need for customization. I also know there was a directive to drive more profitability. So you get into the business and you go see for yourself. You get in the operation. You've got these three factors. You gotta get them all going at the same time. So what were the big targets for you, or what are the big targets for you in terms of, navigating this transition? My
lean experience was nothing short of perfect for this. And I can say it with one word: inventory. It's very hard to convince someone that inventory is bad until you actually show the results. I'm going to date myself again. I don't know if anyone's ever seen Days of Thunder out there. It was at the time, it was like one of my favorite movies, right? When Tom Cruise was driving the car for the first time for Henry Hyde, and he's like, Henry Hyde goes, "You do 10 laps your way, then do 10 laps my way." And Tom Cruise goes out and beats the heck out of the car and runs horrible lap times, blisters the tires. And then Henry Hyde goes, "All right, now do exactly what I tell you in the comms." And then, so he does, runs the fastest lap times, tires are like brand new. He goes, "Now do you trust me?" Right? I use that analogy because if you ever saw the movie, it is the perfect pictorial of lean and like the legacy thinking of operations. And until you truly are a leader that believes in lean, and I'll say the same thing for AI. I didn't know how to spell AI about 6 months ago, and now I don't know how I ever operated without it. But with lean, the proof is in the delivery of the lean practices. And the number one evil is inventory. And what I walked into was the operations team like hugged and savored and protected inventory. Inventory was everything. It was like, if we didn't see work in process built up here to 12 hours, we were going to fail. If not here for 24 hours, we're going to fail. If we don't have the distributor where we get our vegetables from at 3 days, we're going to fail, right? Instead of looking at stabilizing the bottleneck, the one thing that could be the pacemaker, and then start managing the business off the pacemaker instead of these gigantic buckets of inventory. Now, you can't just do it overnight, right? You need to understand all the variables. But once you understand the variables, you can then look at, okay, our distributors are our first barrier. Why are we using distributors? We're one of the largest consumers of vegetables outside of big box retailers. Like, why aren't we going farm to box, right? Next, all right, we've just eliminated that middleman. We just saved on cost of goods sold, and we're getting fresher produce, and we're increasing the customer experience, and we have more versatility, flexibility of our inbound scheduling and sequencing. So then it's like, okay, what's causing us to have this imbalance that we need to have these big inventory buildups? And it really came down to not understanding line balancing. So it was like, oh, we'll schedule creating the box for the customer and we throw a bunch of people at it. All of a sudden, all the sub-assemblies, if you ever got a HelloFresh, I call it a sub-assembly. We call it a kit for the customer, but my manufacturing in me can't. It's a sub-assembly. We'd run out of sub-assemblies. Then all of a sudden, right, run back to make more sub-assemblies for the fulfillment experience. And that accordion, that back and forth slinky of so much inventory. I call it, instead of FIFO, first in, first out, we had fan out and find it, right? It was like, you had to like go out and spend all this indirect labor to find this inventory. Then it wasn't fresh. Then you had to throw out things. And then like the customer experience wasn't as good. So super long story short, I see all three are connected. All three are connected in such a way as you become a predictable, stable process that the team members can manage a multi-million-dollar business instead of having to have the remote controls of a plant or a building leader or a manager run it. All of a sudden, speed and predictability become almost natural. Now, there's a lot of education, there's a lot of tools, there's a lot of barrier removal that have to happen before you hit that utopianistic state. But really, inventory reduction is the key to what we've done. And again, if you were a customer 2 years ago compared to today, I hear it all the time. The freshness, quality, visualization of our food is second to none since like the beginning. And it's because the team has pulled so much working capital out of the value stream to ensure we're getting the most value add, freshest product to our customers.
The perishability I was thinking about your career and the jobs you've done. And one of the tough variables is your inventory is perishable. You don't have the option of it sitting for a long period of time, right? I mean, that's got to be a huge X factor.
It is. Perishability is one, but I'll tell you a bigger one. I'm used to steel. T60, 60, 61 aluminum. It has this tensile strength, this draw strength. If it's this tensile, you turn the pressure, this, blah, blah, blah. Have you ever seen 2 carrots the exact same size and the exact same weight and the exact, or true. 2 cucumbers, or right? Yeah. So there are a lot of variables. It's not just the perishability factor. It's also just the overall quality factor. It's the needing to almost manage on laws of averages instead of like individual lot quality. Because a carrot that's this big is just as delicious as a carrot that's this big. The problem is I only need 1 carrot in your kit bag if it's this big, but I need 2 if it's this big. So it's the fungibility around of our bill of materials and how we think about creating the customer experience to be level set for you every time you get it and have your box look just like your neighbor's box. There's the real challenge. Now, the perishability without a doubt is a factor, and that's where speed comes into play. And getting much more of what I call that farm to box experience and mitigating a lot of that downtime and non-usage is key. Now, it presents other variables where I'll give a great example. Guess what? When you buy fresh broccoli and it comes direct from the farm, want to have any idea what we find in the gaylords of broccoli every once in a while?
Bugs,
caterpillar. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. We do not. The second we see one non-organic organism in the batch, it's sent back. It's in our contract. We do not tolerate it. But guess what? If you have sole source, which we did have a lot early on when I onboarded, you're done. Like your sole source is now completely wiped out your supply chain because they're it. So there's a lot of, as I stated earlier, a lot of prerequisites to bring this to life. And another key prerequisite that a lot of people don't think about is redundancy. Redundancy with key suppliers that keep the other suppliers honest from a cost and delivery perspective, but also are a very good redundant get out of jail free card if your original supplier has some issues.
How are you leveraging automation and data to ensure that these millions of unique boxes, are the customer experience is what you want? How does data and automation come into this? Just
like any real fulfillment business that puts out a lot of boxes, we're very data rich. We have reduced our lead time to customers, not just through inventory reduction, but also, again, 2 years ago, if you were a first-time customer, you picked your first time order on HelloFresh. If you happen to order on, I'm going to get the date wrong because it's been so long in the past, I'll say Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. It literally took, because of the cutoff, and Tuesday was the last day of the cutoff, you wouldn't get your first box for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
You know how many people change their mind when they do kind of an impulse buy with a subscription company, and then all of a sudden you don't get your box for 3 weeks? Cancellation rates through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a world where you got to wait 3 weeks for your box. I mean, imagine if you went to Amazon for something today and it took 3 weeks. You'd just bypass it, right? Like you wouldn't even think about it. One of the first things as we did all this inventory reduction and changed a lot of things, we started collecting data on how long does it truly take to get a product from a customer order to on the truck and then on the truck to delivered. And there are different ways we started bringing last mile delivery to life. Like we use FedEx depending on the topography and how rural or city driven. We have our own HelloFresh last mile delivery program if there's very dense cities. We use third party logistics like gig workers in certain areas. All those different means of last mile delivery play a role in what I'm about to share. The customer experience of being 3 weeks is totally unacceptable to me. So now, by using data and looking at, here's the probability curve of the last mile delivery. If we use this, this, and this, here's how long it truly takes us to get a product through the value stream. We now deliver that first box to you, longest 3 days, sometimes next day. Then once you're in the funnel, now you can be on our regular cadence because you got your first box. Now you can select your next, and now it's just you're in the standard. It was always that first box that bit us, right? So we no longer have that lag time outside of Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Huge, right? And how did we do it? Again, it's massive data collection, right? It's tying the end-to-end understanding of what's the lead time on our raw materials, what's the probability of the raw material being received good the first time, what's the probability of us needing to go to a secondary vendor or tertiary vendor, what's the last mile, and we're constantly analyzing that. And we call it our OMS, or order management system. We've AI-ified it, so we've been able to really drive heavy prediction models on ensuring we have the right deliveries in the right time of day, in the right day of the week to satisfy the customer experience. Now, when does it go wrong? I bet you a bunch of customers, if they're listening to this week, they're like, well, Dan's a liar. During the first first month of the year and then the middle of February, my box was 2 days late. It was 3 days late. There's this little thing called weather that really throws a hitch in things when roads are shut down for states of emergency and such. But the good thing is, and the feedback I received, whether it be in Reddit or just customer feedback and thanking, was it was still fresh. It was late, but it was fresh. And here's why. We started collecting weather data and, again, back to the data question, looking at the probabilities of when roads would reopen. And we modified our production schedules and our in-bring of materials to ensure the same freshness experience would occur and not just have a bunch of stuff built up and now all of a sudden a customer has a 4-day-old box that should have only been a day old. So we use data for that. When I think about like mechanical automation, the way we're bringing the personalization to life in the West Coast is physical automation on the shop floor that is tied in to the algorithms of that prediction model I was just talking about. So we have the ability now in that site to really create any menu possible. We haven't connected it to the operation yet, but we've got the front end done. So we have this thing now in HelloFresh called a Cookbook. And when you go on the app and you go in the Cookbook, you can say you have I don't know what TikTok is. I've heard of it, but I've never been on it. Kind of joke, but you can see.
Your kids probably have been.
Exactly. That's how I know. But you can see your favorite chef on TikTok and say she or he is cooking XYZ and you want it. We now have an AI engine that you can click on the video and it dissects the item and you can put that item in your cookbook. And then what we're doing is we're looking at everyone's cookbooks and how many recipes they're saving that aren't in our selection. And we're having that drive kind of the Pareto on what we want to bring to life next in our menu. Ultimately, the goal is to bring that all the way to the end, meaning to the recipe card and the bill of material. And as long as I have the product in inventory, I can ship it to you.
Wow.
So that's where we're heading. And that's what automation will unlock. We're somewhere between what I just described and what I'm actually doing now.
Sure.
But that's why I said it's pretty amazing. I didn't know how to spell AI a few months ago, and now it manages so many mundane things. It just automatically does for me now, and insights I never dreamt I would have had in my data sets, especially looking at international buildings compared to Canadian buildings, compared to Australian buildings, compared to US buildings. I now have like this common denominator that equalizes the data and really allows me to ask my teams on site what questions to ask their leaders and their team members on the floor to win and improve the customer experience.
Yeah, the swell of I think Elon calls it the supersonic tsunami. You could feel the swell right now. It's oh snap! It's like it's really coming in. I hear you. It's such a part of my day to day now. It's kind of remarkable just in the last few months. So how are you thinking? And I know you guys are making a big investment in efficiency. How do you see AI and robotics changing the game on the manufacturing floor? Like, what does that look like there?
All manufacturing is two parts. It's value add, non-value add. Like, I'm a lean practitioner. I bake everything into two things. And value add is anything that creates the experience for the customer, right? So whether you're cooking something, molding it, scooping it onto a plate, or putting it into a box, right? The customer experience doesn't come to life unless that is done. Non-value add is what costs money. Like the value add, so many people want to go attack the value add. That's like it's like you're tripping over 20s to pick up the pennies, right? The non-value add is what you need to attack. So these are things like replenishing lines because you didn't have the right timing to keep things fed. And now you've got 30 people doing this, waiting for product to be line side fed, or this is downtime because you didn't have good predictive maintenance models and you have a belt break. These are things like there's a ton of walking time, but you have a predictive route that you could take, and a simple AGV autonomous transportation unit could move stuff back and forth without having any downtime. These are the things that we're live implementing now, right? I've gotten the team to unlock this mindset of, we've got to reduce this scan time from 1 second down to 50 milliseconds. That doesn't buy you efficiency. Never. Now, if you eliminate steps, then yeah, that helps. But in our world that we're cooking and driving fulfillment, eliminating steps isn't really an option. The whole goal is, how do you flow? How do you make sure you're balancing the in as well as pulling out at the other end? And as soon as you start getting an accordion in the middle, efficiencies drop, because now you have downtime, you have people waiting, you have these big slugs, you have to go swarm that slug to get it moved. So what we're using AI for in a few different areas, we're using it just in overall quality and movement. So how are we looking at predictive moves to ensure every unit's in the box? How are we looking at those moves to see when certain workstations are out of work? How are we looking at the inputs to those workstations, and why are they repetitively a failure to the value add? We're looking at, again, on the OMS side, the order management system side, how to group orders differently to be more effective and efficient, and how fast we can get the bottleneck to move product through. And then again, we're using that same AI automation to go into the physical automation we're now using in our Locust robots and our AutoStore machines to change the sequence live. Because there's always something that's going to happen. I shared the caterpillars in broccoli. Like if we find something and all of a sudden we don't have ingredient X in the old world, we got to purge the lines. Everyone get this off. And all right, start replenishing this. And the next thing you know, you're down for, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Now we just dumped the new plan instantaneously into the robotics, and no one ever knew that we had a blip. The key for me, I said this at Target, I said it at Amazon, and I say it here, and I mean this. Robotics should not eliminate the workforce. Robotics, I never implement a robotic solution that is taking away a person's desire and willingness to get a paycheck. Robotics should guarantee quality, increase throughput, or increase the customer experience. Or first off, make the line safer, right? As long as you're doing those things and you have humans interacting with those robots, then that's when you win. You can't fully, I don't see a world, at least in my lifetime when I'm still making stuff, where robotics is like taking over the world, where you have a factory with no one in it. It's just not going to happen, especially in my world.
Modernization, integration, infrastructure, AI readiness. Onin Technology helps industrial IT leaders build momentum without the resume bloat or vendor babysitting. We deliver talent vetted by real subject matter experts, scoped project teams built for results, and consulting from tech leaders who've done the work. Contract to hire, direct hire, or statement of work, we do what fits. Ready to move? So are we. Visit onintechnology.com.
Yeah, I could definitely see in food production, because of what you said earlier with all the variables, because or you could have a carrot that's twice as big as that factor, I think makes full automation very, very difficult, or processing, chicken, or like that would just, it seems like we're quite a ways from that. So how are you, I think about this a lot with the business I'm in. So, how will your production workforce need to evolve over the next 5 years? And what are you doing to make sure that they're ready for what's next?
Great question. I see a workforce that needs to be more owners. And what I mean by this is, and I went through this transition in a few other places, and we're not here yet at HelloFresh. I'll be very blunt. This is why I say the next 5 years. When you have a team of owners, and when I say owners, they know and understand the metrics in their area, and they know and understand what good looks like, and they know and understand and care about the people that are next to them, that's when you win. So what we're in the middle of doing, because the cost of turnover is ridiculous, right? It depends who you talk to. I think turnover is drastically understated, depending on who you talk to. I guarantee you the cost of turnover of even a basic hourly person is roughly $20,000 to $30,000. When you start thinking about time to ramp and customer impact and everything else.
Well, and then the geometric impact of having that new person and the ripple effect throughout the whole. Yeah.
Spot on, right? So the whole idea for me is if you're a renter, you don't care. But if you're an owner, right, you take pride and you care and you want to win. So like renters, to me, they'll see their neighbor putting their hand in an unguarded chain and like, I probably should have stopped them. It's really terrible that they got hurt. Where, whoa, what are you doing? Why are you operating that without a guard? Like even before they get near it, right? That's from the safety front. The quality front, not passing something along if they know it's wrong. These are the things that matter. And there's a lot of training that goes into individuals to make them owners and not renters. When I think of temps that come in and you just spend 5 minutes training them, like, oh, put this in this box, that's a renter. Like, they're never going to care if they missed one or two in a box. Like, nobody yelled at me. I got my paycheck. When you actually make the experience real, and this box could have been sent to your mother or father or your whatever, and articulate clearly the impact their role has on the customer and the business, and then train them effectively on how they can impact the outcome of that, that's when you win. So when I look at the next 5 years, that's really the key. And then obviously through that ownership, how are they thinking about, it's such an overused term, but not suggestion box, but I really love it when team members like have real genuine ideas on how to make the process safer, how to reduce this process step, how to make this easier. That's when we win. When we actually train people in basic continuous improvement activities, it makes my heart warm. I love that.
Thinking about the AI revolution that's upon us, an ownership mindset looks at a tool like that and thinks, wow, this is like a Iron Man suit almost, like I can 10x the value I'm bringing, as opposed to hunkering down and, oh gosh, this could take my job.
That's it, Jim. Like, I mean it. I've said it to all my entire directs now. It's funny. I should show you my Slack. I had like, Dan, this is wild. I can't believe we did this, right? And it's just that. You hit the nail on the head. It's not being defeated because now all of a sudden XYZ is going to take my job. It's the scope and what you can impact in the same amount of time you did yesterday is like 3-4x. It's 3-4x. I'm a huge believer in A3 problem solving. It's not important. Like, if you don't know what it is, it's fine. But it's like real deep dive root cause analysis. To kick the thing off in my old days, oh my goodness, it would have taken me, weeks to establish a steady value stream, look deeply at the repeatability of each process step, blah, blah, blah. So like I'd have my first basic A3 probably in, like, if I worked hard on it, we'll say a week and a half. I'm now using Claude because it's in all my data sets. I can generate an A3 that's probably about 80 to 85% correct in 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's amazing. Hey, so I was thinking, you're a guy who you spent 6 years as a plant manager in that role, running a single operation. You made the leap into more global roles, and we've got a lot of plant managers and warehouse managers that listen to the interview who some of them may be thinking about like what's next. And I was curious, how do you think that someone and being a plant manager is a big job. I mean, like a big job. If someone who is thinking, okay, well, what's next? How should they be thinking about whether to kind of take that leap? And if they are looking to take the leap, what does it take to make that move into a role more like what you're doing, do you think?
First off, when I was a plant manager, most fun I ever had in my life. I mean that. Best job I ever had. So sorry if. Well,
that's the thing. It's not. We tend to think the next job is the next thing, but it's not. It doesn't necessarily.
Listen, when you can walk around the pond with a couple people and be like, "Hey, let's talk about what went well today. Let's talk about what didn't. How can I help you win tomorrow?" Seeing those changes make live instant impact. Seeing a finished product come off the line and knowing it's making a difference for the customer, I love that. Like, most fun I've ever had in my career, hands down. For me, and I'll be perfectly honest, I made the leap first off early in my career because I made my first out of plant leap when I was 34, I guess I was 35, and I did it because of probably how other people think about it. Well, wow, I'm young, relatively young. I got offered this multi-site, multinational role. I'm in. Like, I'm going to drive this, right? And my first year, I tried to lead it as if I was still a plant manager. And like, I don't want to say micromanage. Yeah, you know what? I will. I'll call myself out. I was micromanaging my plant managers because I knew how to do it better.
Yeah.
And I say that bluntly, like I call myself out on that. When you know you're ready for the next step, it's when you truly, truly value your team and how to coach, mentor, and develop that team to be better than you are, and know and understand that what makes them tick, how you can excite them, and how you can, again, make them better than you ever were, right? Because a team under you will always be better than you individually. And when you're at that point in your career where you think that excites you more than actually watching something change, when you are in a point of your career where you feel better about making someone a high performer instead of you making a plant a high performer, that's when you should mentally make that switch. The second thing is, right, understanding the business at a higher level. Like, I was fortunate enough through my career. I've always been mentored by big individuals in the companies. And, I understood P&Ls very early in my career, and it made me intellectually curious on what other things could I do, right? And as an operator, as we were talking before, as an operator, you think you can only affect what's in your four walls. But as you learn more and more about the business, you figure, wow, you unlock sales, you unlock marketing, you unlock the creative thinking of how you go direct to your customer. And you should be at the forefront of unlocking that business value. And that's the other time I'd say you're ready to take a leap. If you're just into continuous improvement, driving results, and stay as a plant manager, there is nothing like most fun I had in my career, hands down.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, we're running out of time. I have one more question I want to hit you with. You've had a fantastic career in some high stakes environments, dynamic companies, right? In environments that will test assumptions. You can't buy your own BS in environments like you've been in. So what's something you've changed your mind on in recent years?
Man, that is a great question. I would say the number one thing that I have changed my mind on, it kind of goes a little bit into what I just articulated when you want to grow. I used to always believe I had to be in the decision making, whether it be at the tail end to be like, if you're in a Daisy or a Racy, like I do not finalize until I've had my say, right? And Target probably did the best job of teaching me you are so much more effective when you are super crisp on OKRs, KPIs, what good looks like, the value of a problem statement, like articulating what problem you want solved as a leader and not even remotely going down the path of how you want it solved. So many leaders make that. I was one. Hey, do this. And you don't explain the why behind it. And then you're only as good as your own thinking, right? Instead of putting a maniacal amount of time into developing a problem statement and making sure your team knows what good looks like, that's the job of a big leader. And I would say that's been throughout my career, my biggest mindset shift that I would say almost if it went binary from on to off, it wasn't that quick. But like probably 4 or 5 years ago, I really realized the only way to be successful is to be super crisp and clear on what's expected of your team, what problem they're trying to solve, and what good looks like.
Good stuff. All right, let's land it there. Dan, man, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. How can folks connect with you, connect with Opportunity, with HelloFresh? We'll put it in the show notes, but what's the best means to do that?
I'm on LinkedIn, Dan Seidel, HelloFresh, based in the Twin Cities area. So I'm sure you can search by my area too. And then HelloFresh, we have LinkedIn, we have X, Instagram. We have our own website. So, but yeah, anyone who wants to reach out, ask more. Sometimes I'm a little better than others of answering my LinkedIn questions and emails, but I do answer them all. Sometimes you got to wait till I'm on a plane, but I do get to them.
Well, thank you so much, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, keep it real.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is powered by Onin, the staffing partner delivering real results for manufacturing, logistics, and food processing companies nationwide. To learn more, visit www.oningroup.com. Until next time, keep it real.